Welcome to Talking Grit, a Detroit Lions podcast. Powered by the Monroe County Reporters. Here are your hosts, Jason Harwood and Jacob Litton.
Welcome to another episode of Talking Grit. Yes, we're back to Talking Grit. Eric is not here, unfortunately, today. But what you do have is myself, Jason Harwood, and Jacob Litton. Jacob, what's going on, man?
Not much. Still doing the remote thing for work. Really excited about draft week. I love this week. Awesome week for all football fans. Couple more days. Can't wait for it. How about you? What have you been up to?
I'm going to a Tigers game tomorrow, which I'm really looking forward to. Get to see Casey Mize pitch, which I'm excited about. Going with my youngest son. He likes to walk around the ballpark, so we'll probably be in our seats for a little bit, but we'll be watching it from a lot of different vantage points along the stadium. So that'll be fun for me. And the Pistons, disappointing, obviously yesterday, or Sunday. I realized after I got the Tiger tickets that the Pistons were playing at home, so it's going to be very busy in Detroit, which
What a
is
night in
it's
the
okay.
city.
Yeah,
It'll
be
be the
all right.
last playoff series. The Pistons and Knicks. It was the day of the draft.
No,
So me and JJ, when the draft was going on, me and JJ were up, by the concessions and stuff. They only had it playing on the small TVs. We were up there watching the end of the game as the draft was happening.
Yeah, they put it on the big TVs. I don't know if you knew that or not because you were down.
You told me when I got down there, but they only showed the last 10, 15 seconds of the game.
Yeah, right when we turned the ball over. So that was disappointing. All right. So, we're on earlier today, which is cool. We're going live at 8. A couple more people in the chat than normals we're getting them before their bedtime. I got a new listener, Austin Damon, 9891 or 9811. He gives us a shout out. So, welcome. Glad you could be in here. Maybe you could help us out with this draft that we're going to do today. So that is our plan. We're going to mock the entire first round. So every team, we're going to mock every pick, just to kind of give us a feel of what we expect for the draft. We are not going to do any trades just because we're doing one round. So doing a trade is kind of stupid. If you gain a second round pick, it's not going to help you in this mock. So we're just going to ignore the fact that there's going to be trades in this draft. We might talk about, hey, this is a good spot or to trade up or anything like that. We'll discuss that, but we're not going to do any actual trades. Before we do all that, though, we're going to do some draft over and under. I want to get Jacob's opinion on some of this stuff, and I'll share mine. And if he's got any over unders, we'll go from there. So, Jacob, my first one I think might be a relatively easy one, but we'll see. In the first round itself, the combination between quarterbacks and running backs, 2.5 is the over under. Are you going over or are you going under?
2 is obvious, right? You have the 2. You have got Jeremiah Love. You got Fernando Mendoza. This is where Vegas is betting. Like, does somebody trade back into the first round and take another quarterback, or does there another running back that goes late? I'm gonna say over. I will say 3.
Yeah, I think Ty Simpson goes, and that's going to be your tiebreaker. And running back could come up there. I mean, I could have did 3.5, and because I think Ty Simpson's going to go. It's a matter of whether that second running back from Notre Dame gets drafted.
Well, Jadarian Price seems, a lot of rumors that the Seahawks like him, and that makes a lot of sense there. Yeah, definitely. Or somebody could see that as a possibility, and they trade back in there to snatch him up before the Seahawks pick.
Mm-hmm. All right. Next one is offensive tackles. Obviously, very important for Lions fans, right? How many are going to go in the first round? Let's do, I think I wrote 7. So let's do 6.5, Jacob. Do you think more than 6.5 are going to go more or less in the first round, offensive tackles?
More than 6.5? I'll say 6 go. I'll say
think
under.
6 are going to go? Man, I have to do the math on that, but I think there's going to be over. I think 7's going to go. It depends on, do we take Blake Miller? Because there's questions whether he's going to go late first or second. It could go as early as 17 to us. Who knows? And then, Lomu, is he going to go? Ihano, is he going to go? It'll be interesting. But
and I think that might play out depending on how the teams at the top value those picks.
Yes.
Right? If a lot of tackles go early, then that means people are going to start hitting the panic button and either trading up or just picking those guys a little earlier than they'd want to. And then that's when you have maybe some people with second round grades going in the first round just because they need that position.
Yeah, the interesting thing is if tackles do go early, which is not an ideal scenario if you want one for the Lions, but let's just say if they do, that means a someone else is falling. Caleb Downs is falling. Someone that's, highly rated on the board is going to slip past the top 10. And once they get past the top 10, if they, are on Brad Holmes' list, I could see a scenario where, he jumps and, the value's there and he's like, I got to get this guy. You don't let Caleb Downs get away.
Right,
So,
right.
so you
I
could
just think
see,
there's too many high, there's too many defenders that are so high rated and it's
Mhm.
like their ceiling is so high. I don't see those teams in the top 10 passing those people up.
Yeah.
Especially when you've got like the Browns have multiple first round picks, the Giants have multiple first round picks, the Dolphins have multiple first round picks. I just feel like they're going to be, eyes wide on some of these receivers or defenders. And that's why, these tackles might be available later on. And then maybe by the time 17 rolls around, the Lions have their pick of, two or three of the guys that they might want.
Yeah. It's going to be interesting. Those, I'll be, I'm going to be locked into this draft no matter what, but I'm really going to be itching to get this. And I don't know if you know this or not, but they changed the time. It's not 10 minutes per pick this year. It's 8 minutes per pick. Did you know that they changed that? Yeah.
No, I did not.
8 minutes. So you wonder if that's gonna affect the trade market, right? Like, some of these things go down to the last second. So I don't,
Well, it used
it's
to be
gonna be
15
interesting.
minutes per pick, right? And even
My
then, it was
God.
like the first round pick, the very first pick of the draft would take like 14 minutes. Like you
Yes.
haven't known who you're going to be taking for weeks. What is the holdup?
The also
15
like
minutes is unnecessary.
it is. But the thing is that like sometimes there'll be like two picks backlogged and they won't have announced the picks and they'll be in there. So with 8 minutes, are they going to be really backlogged? Like they got to fit in these commercial breaks. So it'll be annoying if like your team is picked and then the next two teams have already picked too. Like I don't want, the card is
Wait,
in.
where it's like the pick is in, yeah, and then it's like, the Lions pick is in, but they still haven't even announced the Jets pick before.
Yeah,
That's a
I know.
little annoying. It's very annoying when those picks leak. And then you find
Yes.
out who the Lions are taking a solid, 7 or 8 minutes before it actually pops up on the screen. I hate that.
Yeah. So that's a question for you. So last time I was in the stadium, last couple of years I've been in the stadium, I haven't been on my phone at all. Do you have Twitter up when you're watching the draft? Because it's going to get spoiled on there, I'm sure.
Twitter up. But generally, like watching it on TV, generally, like last year is different because I was at the draft. So I did not pay attention on purpose to be in the moment and to want to hear it with everybody and have that reaction and everything. But before that, I'll have it up. You know, outside of the Lions pick, I still don't like seeing the Lions pick ahead of time, but I have no problem seeing, who the Saints are taking, a minute or
Mhm.
two before it pops up. It's usually not very long before they actually pop up on the screen anyway.
Yeah. All right. All right. Go back to over under. First round trades, 5.5. This is first round only.
5.5.
Yeah.
Well, like you just said, there were 4 first round trades last year. Now they've got a little bit less time to play around. Also, a lot of talent at the top, probably a lot of phone calls being made. Quite a few teams have more than one first round pick. I'm going to say under.
I'm going to go over on it. I think there's going to be a lot
Really?
of trades. Yeah. I think they're, especially after the first like 10, whatever you want to say, 10, 12 players, the high end players, everyone's kind of bunched up. And so I'm wondering if someone's going to fall in love with someone and be like, I got to move up and get them, especially if the tackles start going and then all the tackle needy teams are like at the back end of the draft. Everyone has their eye on the Lions. Are they going to be trying to jump up? So I'm going to go over 5.5 trades. And so Detroit fan man 9899 says the over under on the line and Vegas he thinks is 8.5 on trades. I think I'd go under that. That seems like a lot of trades, but
If I'm making my prediction, I'll say that there's 5 trades.
5 trades. Okay. Yeah, I don't know. I don't want to give a specific, but I think it's going to be over 5.5. So at least 6. All right, my last question I have for you, and then we can move on to the draft, unless you got questions for me. But this is a Lions one, since this is a Lions podcast. How many picks would the Lions have in the top 100 when it's all said and done? So we have two. Obviously, we have 17 and 50. Are we going to get another pick, or do you think it's going to just stay at two, or possibly be one, and we'll get rid of our second round pick? Where are you at?
I want more picks. I just don't see logistically how. I mean, last year we traded up 3 times, right? Over the course of the draft, Brad Holmes trades up 3 times. You don't have as much wiggle room this time because of those trades that you made last year. What was the number that you said?
2.5.
Or you're just saying how many?
They'd have to gain a pick essentially in the top 100. I mean, you have a couple options in my mind. You trade back from one, you get a third rounder. That's an option. The other one is you got 2 fourth rounders. You package those up and you could get in the top 100 there. Yeah. So those are your. So is that my guess? My question is, do you think we do that? We gain an extra pick, so we get 3 players in the top 100 instead of
I guess
2
for S's and G's and for my own hope, I will say yes, that we trade those picks and get up and make a third round selection as well.
All right. Brad Holmes likes to jump up into that third round. I just hope it's for a player that's going to be used this year.
Right.
So we'll see. I'm going to go
somebody from Ecuador that we've never heard of before.
Ecuador. Yeah, we don't know how he's going to play because he's never played against any college competition, right?
Right. We don't need that again.
We do not. All right, man. We are going to use the Pro Football Network mock draft simulator. We're going to use that. We used it for the other one. Like we said, we're going to do the whole draft. We'll try to be as descriptive as possible for the people that are listening just on Spotify or Apple or whatever service you use. If you want to see it, we have video on Spotify and YouTube, and then you can kind of see what we're looking at. But I don't think it's going to be, entirely necessary. Jacob, we got to figure out which one of us is going to go first. I don't have a coin here or anything. You got any way? Do you want the first pick or do you want me to have it?
I mean, the first pick should be a gimme, right?
Right.
You can go.
Matters. We could go every other one, right?
Right.
Yeah.
I'll let you pick first.
Okay.
Are we just going to say the first pick is Mendoza and we're going to move on?
Yeah, I'm not even going to.
You can pick 2. You can make the second, like the first actual.
Oh, okay.
Because that would already be the shock of the century if Mendoza does not go first, right? I mean.
Exactly. All right. So I got it up here. We are using the draft board for wide left. So Arif Hassan, who's been on the show many times, has his own consensus board. So we're going to go with that. I like it better than the Pro Football Network one. So, all right. So the first pick is obviously we're going to go Mendoza. All right. Second pick, we have the Jets. They're on the board, and we decided that I'm picking for this one, right?
Right.
So I don't know if you saw this, but they canceled David Bailey's visit. They said don't read into it.
Of course, they're going to say don't read into it.
Yeah,
but that means 2 things, right? Either one, they're 100% sure that's who they want. They don't need him to make another visit. They're taking this kid. Or number 2, they're 100% set on somebody else, and they don't want to waste his time or their time by having him visit. So how are you feeling? What do you think?
Well, oh man, what do they have to gain by canceling that visit? Is what I'm thinking. It could be a smokescreen. Who knows what they're thinking?
Do you need a smokescreen when you're picking number 2 and number 1's already sold though?
And number 1's already done. You essentially have the number 1 pick, right? Because you get, the number 1 pick's already been decided. I'm going to go with Arvell Reese.
Okay,
I'm just going to say that they're going to pick him, and maybe they've already decided on him, but they're going edge. They've traded away everybody on their team, so this will be a good starting point for them. All right. The Cardinals are up next on the clock. They could be the first team to take an offensive tackle. Obviously, they need a QB. You're not going to take Ty Simpson here.
No. A lot of rumors that I'm hearing. Yeah, a lot of rumors that I'm hearing is that the Cardinals might really like Jeremiah Love out of Notre Dame.
Yep.
3 is very, very high for a running back, especially when they've got other needs. In my head, the first 3 picks are going to be Mendoza, Reese, and David Bailey. The question is, does David Bailey go to the Jets or does David Bailey go to the Cardinals? So in this situation, this is how it played out. Arvell Reese goes to the Jets. I think the Cardinals would take David Bailey.
Okay. All right. David Bailey goes. All right. Titans are on the clock. Edge. Everybody needs an edge, right? So, you got Ruben Bain out there, but would it be 3 edges in a row? Could you go there? You got Caleb Downs. Could be. They don't have safety as a need, but he's also they have needs at linebacker. And Caleb Downs, depending on your scheme and whatnot, you could go with him in that situation. They who was it L'Jarius Sneed that they traded with? It was a disaster trade with Kansas City a couple years ago. Yeah. Do they need a corner? Because you could go with Delane, but that seems very high to draft that corner. I think they're going to go with Sonny Styles, the linebacker from Ohio State. So 2 out of the first 4 are Ohio State. 3 out of the first 4 are Big Ten players.
I agree with that pick 100%. I think that makes a lot of sense, especially with Robert Saleh. And I don't know if you saw that Sonny Styles, like the comp that they're making for Sonny Styles is Fred Warner. So they use like a Fred Warner type of linebacker. So I'm sure that Saleh is all about that.
Yes.
It just makes a lot of sense, especially with the board playing out the way that it is.
All right. Let me Dan Paska's on here. He's got a comment. I want to get your reaction to it. I'll put it up here. Monroe Freeling interview with Kay Adams was interesting. He said Tate told him they only contacted him once, meaning the Lions only contacted him once. So he's like, who knows what interviews mean? Hope you guys are doing great. Go Lions. So, hey, Dan, the Lions have been, I just want to get the Lions thing. The Lions have been so sketchy with their interviews. Like, we don't know, like, really their top 30 interviews have been sketchy. They are keeping that really close to the vest this year. So that's been a good, I like that because we've typically been taking people in our top 30. So I think the Lions wanted to keep that secret. So, in this age of, of just misinformation, I am super on board with us just telling agents, don't tell anybody what we're doing.
Yeah, definitely. It sucks for us as fans because I want some intel. I want to I want to know who's been in the building or who they're talking to or try to see, how close we are or who might be on our radar. And there's just no way to tell. I mean, you look at these top 30 visits, there's a lot of these that are very, very extensive. But then you've got teams like the Rams and the Lions that are just hardly letting anything out. Very few people on this list, and a lot of them are just like, pro day conversations and different like local visit stuff that, you take with a grain of salt.
Yeah.
It's not the same as like those official visits, and you don't know how these, we don't have any like high profile top 30 visits on here outside of Lomu.
Yeah.
Caleb Lomu, I think, is the only one who was a first round grade who was a top 30 visit publicly. Obviously, they're making these top 30 visits. We just have no idea with who.
Yep. Exactly. All right, man. You are on the clock here. We got the Giants with their first of their 2 top 10 picks this year after the Dexter Lawrence trade, which I think is a steal for the Giants. I think they made out really good with that trade. But anyways, first pick. Who do you need me to move around the board or whatever? I assume you're going to draft one of these top guys here, but who are you thinking for these Giants?
I think that Joe Schoen, the GM for the Giants, is going to try to, correct his mistake by letting Saquon go, and I think that they're going to pull Jeremiah Love right here, especially because they have that safety net now of that number 10 pick. The number 10 pick is when they can hope that one of those defensive backs falls into their lap, and if they don't, maybe they take a wide receiver or something else at 10, but number 5 for a superstar running back, I think, is where he's going to go.
All right. What do you think about that with their other running back that they have on their team? What do you think he's going to think about that?
Which running back?
The one that pounds his head into everything.
Scatterboo?
Yeah.
There's no chance that they go into, very little chance that they would go into this season with Scatterboo being the starter.
About?
No. That was never the plan for him to play like that.
Yeah.
And it should never have been the plan. He's a gadget guy that you come out, run somebody over. Let's give you a couple carries a game. We're not gonna, we're not gonna pass up on Jeremiah Love because we've got Scatterboo on the roster.
Yep. All right, man. We got the next team, Browns, perennial top 10 picking team. That was us not too long ago, right? We have not been picked in the top 10 lately, and I'm going to keep it that way. Browns, they need. This is the first team that could take the offensive tackle, right? They could take this here. Do they want some weapons for Shedeur Sanders? They might not be able to protect him, but do they want some weapons? The Browns, and they seem to be a team that's going to swing for that. I think it's hilarious that their needs is QB. As many as they've taken, as many as they have on their roster, their needs are a QB still. And they obviously need offensive guard too. Too early to take a guard here. Man, do you take Ruben Bain and then you got the most scary defensive line out there?
Right.
Go the Texans route. We don't want any offensive linemen on our team. We just want to rush their quarterback. It's like the water boy defense. It's like, it's like just like sack the guy, cause a turnover, take it, let the defense score. That's what I would call.
Same color scheme, right?
Yeah,
or
exactly.
Close.
Yeah. Man, I am stuck on this one. Maui Noah's screaming out for me on this one because the Browns need offensive line help, but they need so much on this team. I am gonna go Maui Noah here.
Wow. All right.
This is good. This is the first pick that I don't know which direction they're gonna go. Right. I think the rest of these are pretty reasonable. Obviously, if Bailey goes first, who knows? But I think that I think these are a pretty good top 5. The Browns, I really don't have a good read on what they're going to do. So, but I'm going to go with Maui Noah here. This is the first offensive tackle off the board. This is when our heart starts to pitter patter a little bit. Is this going to be a run? And we'll see. So the Commanders are up next. Jacob, you get to pick for the Commies.
So this is going to be interesting because I think that the Browns, in my opinion, I think the Browns like Carnell Tate and that they would probably take him if it played out exactly like that. Now, in this scenario, Browns take Maui Noah, Carnell Tate is there for Washington. Mm-hmm. So then Washington has a discussion like if they really fell in love with Carnell Tate or Mekhi Levin, do they take the wide receiver right there? Or, because Caleb Downs just fell into their lap, do they pull the trigger and get that defender right there? So I'm going to say with the way this is playing out that the Commanders would take Caleb Downs, being the best player available and a difference maker on defense.
Yeah,
somebody who they met with multiple times and have like a top 30 visit and everything with Downs. So there's smoke there.
Yeah, I would like Caleb Downs to slide a little bit, and I think their new fraud on offense is a lot more pragmatic. I think in the previous regime, they probably go with the shiny object, right? They want to give Jay Daniels a weapon out there. So, you could see that Carnell Tate, the Jordan Tyson, the other wide receiver from Arizona State, is like screaming up the board. Will someone, jump and take them? I don't, I'm not sure. All right. We have the Saints at pick number 8 on the board. They, just like a lot of teams, edge, wide receiver, cornerback, guard, and tight end. It's too early for that tight end, at least in this class, to take here. And is the Ruben Bain stuff enough to scare people off to have him slip?
I think if this played out exactly how it does, those top 3 available are going to be a very hard pick. Or any of them are going to be good for the Saints, but I think they're going to have a hard time picking between those. If the best players on the board are Ruben Bain, Mansour Delane, and Carnell Tate, those are all positions of need. Those are all difference makers.
Yeah.
All people that they've met with, and, there's rumors that they like them all. The Saints are probably loving if this is their situation. They just get their pick of those 3.
Right. This could be a trade for them, right? Like if someone else falls in love with someone and then they back up like a couple spots and be like, I'll take one, if I can get one of those 3 players, then I'm golden, right? I think if it falls, we're not doing trades, but that would be a spot for them. I'm gonna
The
go with
problem is
yeah,
that the
go
people directly behind them all have multiple first round picks. So
mhm,
there's not the need for them to move up another spot or two, or just the whole fact the Saints don't want to drop too far, right? The Cowboys are always willing to trade, but then the Saints would drop down 4 picks in this scenario, and then if
mhm.
those are the 3 guys they could pick between, there's a chance, bang, 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 they're all gone.
Yeah, well, you could say, well, I mean, you could make the argument like the Saints, maybe the Chiefs want Carnell Tate, and they'll know that the Giants could jump up in front of them to get, to get them. So I mean, there's all of these mind games that could be played. But in our scenario here, just to keep this moving along, I'm going Carnell Tate. I think they they want to see what Tyler Shook could do. He played better than probably most of us anticipated with the roster that they had over there. They want to give him a weapon. So they're going Carnell Tate. That is what the third Ohio State player off the board, top 8. That makes me sick, but they didn't win a national title, so whatever. They didn't get to the title game. So, all right, Chiefs are on the board. Man, they have
And
some good players to pick here too.
right. And see, now the Chiefs are in the same sort of situation. Like,
Hmm.
they need an edge. Ruben Bain is right there. They need a cornerback. Delane is right there. They need an offensive tackle. Fano is there. There's only one tackle off the board at this point in our
Yep.
draft. And then they also have their pick between Makai Lemon, Jordan Tyson, or maybe they love one of the other receivers that's, traditionally towards the bottom of the first round or second round. Concepcion, Omar Cooper. Uh, you know, this would be interesting if it plays out exactly like this. This is one of those things where it's like, okay, who do the Chiefs have the highest grade on? It seems like the Chiefs really, really need offensive line help. But with Delane being there, I'm gonna say that they would take the cornerback here.
Yeah, I especially with the Trent McDuffie trade, right? They just
Right.
get a first round pick for him, just replace him with a cheaper option. And yep, 100% on board with that. That's where I would have pulled the trigger at. Now we're up to 10. The Giants got, they got some needs here. They also have players that they want to trade. Kayvon Thibodeau. You could see a trade brewing where they edge is not listed as a need for them. However, Ruben Bain falls to number 10. You could trade Kayvon Thibodeau, get some, draft capital later on, and then, you got another cheap option on the edge. That'd be an option. Wide receiver, Jordan Tyson has, jumped up the boards. Is that someone they're going to want to go with? They do need a guard. You got Vega there. Uh, the other USC wide receiver, Makai Lemon, who's getting compared to Amon-Ra St. Brown. I don't know if you've seen that. That's a lofty comparison.
The USC
Yes,
connection there, but yeah.
right. Um, who are they going to pick here? They traded away a defensive tackle, but there's just not any in this class that I think they're going to go with. Man, who do I think that they're going to go with Makai Lemon. They're going to go with the wide receiver. We're going to have the second wide receiver taken in this first round. The Giants give it Jackson Dart a whole bunch of weapons this year because they got their quarterback, right? So that's what they're going to do.
Right. They, can't pass up that receiver just for Ruben Bain in that scenario.
Right.
So then we move down Dolphins with the next pick.
Yeah.
Edge is a position of need for them as well. Ruben Bain's right there. That makes a lot of sense.
Mhm.
They also have multiple first round picks, so it's like do they take their chances that there's going to be another receiver there at the end of the first round that they have as high of a grade as Jordan Tyson, who we just mentioned has been screaming up boards. With this, I would say the top 3 picks for them would be Bain, Fano, or Jordan Tyson. Wide receivers start coming off the board fast, so they pull the trigger there. Ruben Bain being from Miami and everything, I think makes for a good story. I think it makes a lot of sense. I'm going to say that they would take Bain here.
All right. Does that make JJ happy that you pick Ruben Bain for his
I don't know.
Dolphins?
Dolphins are a touchy subject with him right now. You got to tread lightly.
I'm sure. All right.
But that would make the Cowboys super angry because I'm sure.
Yes.
They want Ruben Bain. That'd also be a trade back too. The Dolphins like, hey, if you want him, what trade are you offering? Because we'll take him right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then you know what Jerry would say, be like, hey, we got our replacement for Micah, and we used some of those first round picks, so we'll see. All right, Cowboys are up. They need some defensive help, man. They also need a tackle. Would this be where Fano goes?
I don't see Jerry Jones taking a tackle.
I don't see him either doing that, and I want to say that he's gonna want to make he's not gonna pick a tight end. Does he pull, does Keldrick Falk jump up the board? Does he, go with the edge there? He's not gonna pick Vega in this spot. They are spending so much money on wide receiver and they're hoping to get, Pickens. They're not gonna pick a wide receiver here. I'm going with McCoy, the cornerback out of Tennessee. They are going to get the next cornerback on the board here.
I like that pick. They've met with him. With the way the board is laying out, I think it makes a lot of sense. I also would not be 100% surprised if they pulled the trigger on Thieneman out of Oregon or McNeil Warren out of Toledo and just took one of those safeties there.
Yep.
Cowboys like trading up more than trading back, but that also, if it fell into place like that, they may be calling teams and trying to move back a little bit so that they can get one of those other guys a little bit later. I think it's more likely the Cowboys trade up.
Yes, I think the Cowboys are not going to be picking at 12 either way. I think they're going to be trading up, and the Browns are. I know that's like a hot, guess, but we'll see.
Next up, the Rams at 13.
Rams at 13.
Like I said, this is another one of those things where if you try to do any sort of scouting or whatever, try to see who the Rams are talking to, where the Rams are leaning, there's like nothing out there. Maybe like two or three confirmed top 30 visits. So if you're the Rams, you're just looking at best players available. They do need offensive line help. And at this point, Fano has dropped a little bit.
Yep.
They also could try to take a receiver. Jordan Tyson is right there. That would make a lot of sense. I also could see Sadiq, the tight end out of Oregon, going right here. Decisions. If I am the Rams, oh, man. You know what? I'm going to say that they will take Jordan Tyson, the wide receiver out of Arizona State.
Wow. Good take there. Worried about Puka, huh? With his off the field stuff.
That's up in the air, but also Devontae Adams is, not as young as he used to be.
Yep. All right. Jordan Tyson gets plucked at number 13. Did not see that early in the draft cycle. That's for sure. All right. The Ravens are up. These are the Ravens will steal a Lions type player, right? Because so Fano could go here. They need defensive tackle help. It sounds like maybe they're going to get their defensive tackle back this year. What's his name? I can't remember.
Madubuike,
yeah. So it sounds like there are reports coming out that maybe he's going to be back, or maybe they put that report out now so gets them off of the defensive tackle stuff later on. We'll see. I am actually going to go. They're going to go with Vega here. They're taking this offensive guard. They want a mauler down there. He is a mauler. I'm going with Vega. So offensive guard from Penn State off the board, Jacob.
I could see that happening.
Yep. All right. You have number 15, the Bucks. They are on the board.
Tampa Bay Buccaneers. What do they do with the way the board is laying out here?
At some point, they got to take a linebacker just to piss our buddy off out there.
Right. This is another one where it's like, man, do they pass up on Kenyon Sadiq, the tight end out of Oregon?
Yeah.
They need an edge. Falk is there. Messidor is still there. I don't see where he's at on that list, but Messidor out of Miami, local.
He's 23 down there. He's a little bit.
That'd be both the Miami edges going to Florida teams. Defensive tackle. I mean, I don't know if you have one high highly rated enough right here. Also with the cornerbacks, right?
Man, almost with value, Sadiq is just staring them in the face there.
Right.
But
That's where I was leaning, but that's the thing about tight end, right? Is he's the only one with the first round grade on it. If that's who you want, do you dance around? Do you try to trade around? Is somebody gonna swipe him from you if that's who you want?
hmm
There's value that you can get by trading back. But if you're in love with the person, like we know Brad Holmes, if you fall in love with him, that's who you want. You're gonna do whatever you can to get him. So in this scenario, if they love Sadiq and he's right there, then they're gonna take him. I'm just gonna go ahead and say that they draft him here.
there goes the first tight end. All right, Kenyon Sadiq goes. What our buddy Tampa Tones would say about that? All right, Jets on the board. Lots of needs. They traded away everyone on their roster early in our draft. They got their edge with Arvel Reese. They have needs at wide receiver. They, could get a quarterback. I don't think there's any linebackers that they would need here, and the guard that was the top guard's off the board right here. Man, I think they don't have cornerback. I've seen Ty Simpson mocked here, and to me that just seems
That's
very
way
high.
too right.
Yeah,
I don't see that.
I don't see it either. I would love it. It would be awesome because it
Right.
just gets, as many quarterbacks that could go ahead of us would be the better, but I just don't see it there. Secondary guy, we've traded away, Sauce Gardner. DJ Reed was gone last year. I don't know what their depth is there. You could go with Avion Terrell, the quarterback out of Clemson. If the Jets like him, I don't know if they visited him or not. But that's where I'm going. We are going to get this cornerback at number 20. Avion Terrell goes to the Jets at number 16.
Aaron Glenn with his defensive backs
Yes.
has got to have a few of them circled that he would want to take there. And Avion Terrell is the highest on the board. Colton Hood, the cornerback out of Tennessee, where is he at on that list?
He is number 31 on this list.
See,
I could see the safeties going here too. Either one of
Right.
those safeties going in that situation. So you get it. I think you timed this out right. So you could make the Lions pick. If this board fell, this is a magical way of falling.
Right.
All right. So pause. We're not doing any trades in this. Are you listening to the Fanu's there? Are you just jumping up and going, I'm taking him? Or are you thinking there's so many of these tackles that I could take? I mean, Monroe Freeling's there too. Are you thinking of trading back? Or are you just happy with the guy that's there?
I think that they would just be very happy that Fano fell back there, and they're like, it's a done deal. Let's do it.
Okay. What would it take to get you out of this spot? Like how far back would you fall and how much would you need to get out of this spot?
I mean, that would be what are they willing to offer?
Right.
Like what do we move back? Like the Cowboys are there. The Cowboys try to trade up. We move back 3 spaces. We get pick 20. We get their first round pick next year, and then maybe that's how we sneak in the third round or something like that this year as well.
Mm-hmm. I'd say
then you look and say, okay, there's 3. Well, we said no trades, but let's say if that's what's happened, then there's 3 people going in front of us. If they take Fano, if they take Monroe Freeling, then you've got Caden Proctor, Blake Miller, those people that we're predicting are going to be there at 17 anyway. That really depends. Brad's got his people. They've got their grades. If they've got a high grade on Fano, they're not going to chance that.
No.
Now, if they're not in love with him and they've got, if they've got Fano, Freeling, Proctor all in the same tier, absolutely he would trade back and try to get some more draft capital because then at that point we're taking any of them, whichever one falls to us.
Mm-hmm.
If it plays out exactly like this, I don't see that happening though.
Okay. So you want to go with Fanu right now.
Right. Do you agree? Like if this is how it happened, that was the pick that you would want?
Yeah, I think if Fanu falls this far that they're probably I think that they're probably gonna go that way. Even if Freeling falls, I could almost see Freeling going too. I think that either one of those guys, I think they're going to be pretty happy with. Freeling falling past 17. It's funny because like he'd been screaming up boards, but we think we talked about this at one of our podcasts. Like after a while, after the combine wears down and like these athletic freaks, they tend to go back to the tape. And then, I think Monroe Freeling's like lack of starts is going to play a factor whether he goes or not, unless someone just absolutely falls in love with him. But I think that Freeling possibly will be there when we pick at 17, like he was here. All right. I think this might be the easiest pick that we've had so far. It's been mocked so much. I'm going with Dylan Thieneman, the safety for Oregon for the Vikings. It's going to happen. That safety is off the board. There's so many there's so many players that I'd like at 17 that we had a spot for that the way this fell, we could get a really good player or we could trade back and get some capital, and that's how we could get that extra top 100 pick. All right, Jacob.
It's funny though, the Thieneman thing, the Vikings, almost every mock that I see has him going there. And it reminds me of when Najee Harris, when he came out, almost every draft pick or every mock draft that I saw had him going to the Steelers. Mm-hmm. And it's like that was just one of those things that just made too much perfect sense. And then, sure enough, it spoke it into existence, and that's where he went. So it kind of just feels like that same sort of scenario with him to the Vikings, unless somebody pulls a trigger on him earlier than that.
All right. We are up to pick number 19, Jacob. That is you. It's the Carolina Panthers.
Do the Panthers take an edge here? Do they jump the gun and try to get another wide receiver right now because they need one? Interesting. Safety just went before him. Do they love another safety? I'm going to say that Keldrick Falk out of Auburn is going to go to the Panthers in this scenario.
Yep. Replacing Wanham with Keldrick Falk, huh? All right. We have the Dallas Cowboys. Let me remind myself, they took a cornerback in the first pick, Jermod McCoy. So they are pissed that edge just went. I don't think they're going to go with defensive tackle because they are just happy there. But Messidor is screaming out my name in this one. So I'm going with Messidor. That just seems like pick. Miami. Michael Irvin's happy, right? Miami, University of Miami goes to the Cowboys. So I'm going with Messidor in this spot. 21 Steelers is up. Is this where Ty Simpson goes, Jacob? You get to decide.
I was going to make that joke. Man.
Yeah.
I think if you're the Steelers, they probably are definitely looking at what receivers are going to be there. I know Vega Ione was like heavily mocked there, but in ours, we've got him going earlier to the Ravens. So with the draft board falling the way that it is, they need safety help. And I know that they like Emmanuel McNeil-Warren out of Toledo. Who's the tackle? We still have a tackle up there too, right? Is it Freeling?
We got Freeling is still on the board. You got
Freeling,
Lomu,
Proctor.
And Proctor.
Lomu. Yeah, see, back to what I said before, I just feel like the tackles, if it goes this exact way, then obviously we're not going to have like an influx of tackles early on. I'm going to say McNeil-Warren goes to the Steelers.
All right. McNeil-Warren. We took their safety, and now they're going to replace him. We took Chuck Clark from them. All right. We have I almost said San Diego Chargers. It was so close, Jacob, and I caught myself. I am going to say the Los Angeles Chargers are on the board. They need defensive help. The edges are gone unless you want to go TJ Parker. He's on the board. Yakis is still there. People are talking about him jumping up, but I think 22 is really high for him.
And crazy high.
Yeah. Yes. Yep. It is. I don't think they're going to go with. Man, the board is not falling like great for them in this spot. They may be looking to trade back if this falls this way. But since we're not doing trades, I have to make a pick. It feels like Harbaugh would, even though he doesn't need a tackle, he really would like Caden Proctor. Move him to the inside for a year. But you might need you might need him because both their tackles got hurt last year. And one was in training camp right after he signed the big contract. Who knows if he's going to be back? You know what? I'm going Caden Proctor here. They move him to the inside if their tackles are healthy. If they're not, they got the fallback and they put Caden Proctor on the outside. I'm going Caden Proctor to the I did it. The Los Angeles Chargers.
Even after you talked about it, you still.
I know. Yeah,
just
I know.
Imprinted.
It is. It's like calling the Cleveland Guardians. Can't do
Yeah,
it.
right. Uh, I definitely think if it played out that way, they would have a conversation about Peter Woods or Proctor. Which
Mhm.
big guy do we want? Which side of the line? But one of them would be going right there.
Yep. All right, you have the Eagles. They might have a spot at wide receiver opening
That's
up with AJ Brown
exactly
going.
exactly what I was just going to say. Sounds like AJ Brown is gone. They're going to need help at receiver. They also are trying to, get some more offensive line help. Do they love Freeling? Does Freeling, get snatched off the board right here,
Mhm.
or do they go with Omar Cooper or Concepcion? This is tough for me. Something about it. My heart just says that they would go receiver here.
Okay.
But for the sake of this, I just don't see them passing up Monroe Freeling here in this pick. So I'm gonna say in this scenario, the Eagles would take Freeling.
All right. I think you're right there because that seems like a value pick for the Eagles are going to do that. They value offensive line play. Their offensive line, just like ours, was down last year, right? So they're going to want to replace that. You got to, protect Saquon Barkley, and give him some running room. All right. I just wanted to look back, see what the Browns picked because they're up. We did go with Mami Noe, so they did get some tackle help. Uh, Man, I don't think I think that they're on the Shedeur Sanders train. I do not see them going with Ty Simpson. I just think that they're going to do that. However, I do think they need some offensive weapons. And Jacob, I'm not really up on the three wide receivers. I haven't looked at the wide receiver class just because the Lions are not in there. Denzel Boston, Casey Concepcion, or Omar Cooper Jr. If you had to pick for the Browns, which one would you pick for them?
Ooh, if I had to pick for the Browns, so not just
Yeah.
who I like, but if I'm the Browns, who are they looking at? I feel like it's probably Concepcion.
All right. He is off the board. They got their wide receiver, got Shedeur Sanders, a weapon there. We're going with that.
You keep mentioning Shedeur, but like Shedeur is not the answer at starter right now, right? Are they not? I mean, they're still trying to say that it's going to be Deshaun Watson or what,
Oh my God. Who knows?
right? I mean,
As soon as Watson falters, you know, their fans want Shedeur Sanders out there. They just do. So I'm go with that. To me at the end of the day, that's who's going to be starting by the end of the year if he's healthy. That's why I go with that. But yeah, they're going to have to say Watson gets a chance just because they're paying him so much money.
right. All right. That means I have to pick for the Bears.
The Bears, yep. Could this be where the first defensive tackle goes? There's two of them on there. Uh, you know, Tyleek went in the same area last year. You got Caden McDonald right there. Do the Bears follow Lions suit and draft their run stuffer with a little bit of juice? Do they go there? I don't think they're going to go with anything with wide receiver.
They have met with defensive tackles. They've also met with offensive linemen, and Caleb Lomu is there. And Ben Johnson with his offense and trying to recreate everything with the Lions. I'm gonna say that they take Lomu here.
Okay. Do they need offensive tackle help? I don't. They think they're
Not
tackle.
really.
Yeah. Well, do you bump him inside? Do you do the same thing that we just talked about,
Right.
with Proctor? So, all right, Lomu goes off the board. That is pick number 25. We have 7 picks left. I am up. We have the Buffalo Bills. The Buffalo Bills. I think the linebackers are still too early to take here, although if they really fall in love with one, they can go there. I don't see any offensive guards going here. Do they want to get Josh Allen a weapon? Or does TJ Parker, the edge, go here? Ah, man. I'm going to go TJ Parker. They take the edge right here because they're jumping up in front of the 49ers. I'm going with TJ Parker going to the Buffalo Bills. San Francisco 49ers are on the board.
49ers gonna need wide receiver help, and there's still a couple of those receivers right there.
Mm-hmm.
They still need edge, but now the next edge I don't even see on there. Who's the next highest rated one they have?
Yaka or Cassius
Cassius
Howell's on
Howell.
there, and then you have probably Yakus after. Oh, Zion Young is still on there. Yakus is the 50th rated on overall on this board. So your top rated
Mm.
player is a defensive tackle, Peter Woods out of Clemson, which I don't think that they're gonna, San Francisco's gonna go there, but they do have a couple wide receivers staring them in the face.
I'm gonna say Denzel Boston here.
All right, Denzel Boston, wide receiver,
Between him
going
and
to
Omar Cooper, just one of them has to go to the 49ers there. If
yeah.
Concepcion's already gone.
Give Brock Purdy a weapon over there. All right, here we go. We got the Texans. Man, this is. Let's see. I want. They need so much offensive line help, but are they smart enough to take it? I don't know.
I think any of the like you've got the defensive tackles, Peter Woods, Caden McDonald, both there, and Colton Hood, the corner out of Tennessee.
Yeah, I don't think
Do
they're
you
going to
think
go
they
with
take Blake
corner.
Miller there? I mean,
I don't. I don't know. That seems to be, but that might be just me, or maybe Hanador would be. Or yeah. You know what? Let's go. Let's see here. This one's a tough one for me. I don't think Blake Miller's gonna go. This is I'm going Peter Woods. They're gonna take defense. They just want their defensive line to destroy everybody. So I'm going with Peter Woods, defensive tackle, just because I don't think they value offensive line like I do.
right. I could see that being the pick if the board fell that way.
Yep.
And now here we go with the Chiefs. And then
Yeah.
earlier in the draft, we already had the Chiefs taking cornerback with
Yep.
pick number 9, right? We had them getting Delane. Therefore,
Yep.
they would not need Colton Hood. Although that would be a hell of a haul to get those two cornerbacks in round one and, make sure your defensive backs are set for years. They've also got their eyes set on wide receivers and offensive line help. I would think if they were in this situation that they would need to pull the trigger on Ihanashore or Blake Miller. I
Okay.
just don't know that they would.
I don't know what they value Cassius Howell. They do need edge help. He's up there. You got Zion Young there too. If you want a different edge.
Let's just say in this scenario that they take Ihanashore.
All right.
I don't know why I'm feeling that way. That's just where I'm feeling right now.
All right. Let's go. All right. Dolphins pick number 30 on the board. Well, let me remind myself who they did. They took the edge, Ruben Bain, in this draft with us. So they're probably not going to go there, but I do think that they're going to take a wide receiver. They got Malik Willis. They're going to want to, and they got rid of all their wide receivers. They're going to need to replace them. I think they're going to go with the national champion wide receiver from Indiana, Omar Cooper Jr., going to the Dolphins.
Solid pick.
All right. Number
And now
31.
Here we go. Patriots at 31. The Patriots' top need is receiver, but AJ Brown is on the way, presumably, right? So then, therefore, you take that out, and you're looking at edge, linebacker, tight end, and safety is what they have on there. I don't have my source on this, but some of these mock drafts and some of the research and stuff that I do are the beat writers, like for the Patriots, have a lot of input, and offensive line was on most of their radar, offensive line and edge defenders. So offensive line's not listed as a need on there. But Blake Miller is hanging out right there.
Yep.
Do they want to just pull the trigger on Cassius Howell, or do they have like another edge or somebody that they're willing to take just in the back half of the first round? Zion Young, I'm going to say that they'll take Blake Miller here at 31.
Blake Miller goes. All right.
So I put two offensive linemen in spots where that was not necessarily needed. So
no, it happens. All right. Now you have the Seahawks at 32. Edge, running back, offensive guard, center, and cornerback. So Colton Hood is there. That's probably going to be my pick, to be honest with you.
Yeah, you had Jadarian Price is rated number 54.
Yeah, I was looking at that. I just think
it's just one of those things. Do they love him enough, and do they want that the first round, the 5th year option on that running back?
Yeah, I don't think that they do. Yeah, man. I could go with Cassius Howell too, but I just don't know if he's their type of player. D'Angelo Ponds also I like. If he could slip up into the first round, that would be an interesting development. I think I'll go with Colton Hood, though, cornerback out of Tennessee. That round that ends our draft. So that was fun, man. That was good.
Right.
The
Do you
tackles
have a way
did
of
fall.
saving that or no? I should have been writing these down.
Yes, I could save it. It says I
Yeah,
can
download it, and then we'll revisit after the draft and see
Okay. Yep, I
how
just
many we
downloaded
got
it.
right,
So let me see. Let me see what it
if
looks
any.
like. Yeah, nice.
Bailey would go
Oh,
number
there
2
we go.
overall, and then we just completely lose it. They're on just every.
Here we go. All right.
Perfect.
Yeah, let me actually share that. My son is upstairs losing his crap because they are
Yeah,
just,
because the Tigers are losing their crap.
yeah. Yeah. All right. Let's see if this shows this. Yeah, there it goes. All right. So there's the whole draft. So if anybody wants to see the whole thing, it's on the screen right now. We're not going to go through it all just because of time constraints here, but it's on the screen right now if you want to see it. But I want to get to we're an hour in. I want to get to our Lions just draft history. Got some questions for Jacob. We just want to not going to spend a ton of time on this, but just like the history of what the Lions have picked in the first round per pick. We have it broke down. The Lions have had the first round pick 4 times. A couple of the guys are one's from 1943, one's from 1950. I don't know anything about them, but I do know Billy Sims was 1980. It seems weird of running back being chosen number 1, but that was a very common thing in the 1980s, even into the 90s. Running backs could go number 1 overall, and probably the best number 1 pick of all time for the Lions, Matthew Stafford, quarterback. He's got to be in the Hall of Fame. Just were you, if you're going back to 2009, were you on the Stafford train at that? Did you want Stafford?
I did.
Yeah.
I definitely wanted Stafford.
A lot of people wanted that linebacker that ended up going to Seattle. Was it Aaron? What was his name? I can't remember. There was a lot. He was out of the NFL within a couple of years. Just
Aaron Curry.
Yeah, Aaron Curry. Yep. Went out and Stafford, and then I remember the initial years was like Sanchez had gotten to the AFC Championship, and everyone's like,
right.
"Oh my God, we picked the wrong quarterback," and now Sanchez is out stabbing people, and Stafford's still in the league.
Burn.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, I don't think there's much to debate about who the number 1 quarterback or number 1 pick of all time for the Lions at the number 1 pick.
Agreed.
All right. Number 2, we've had quite a few picks at number 2. First 2 are from 1947, 49. We're not going to worry about that. Charles Rogers is number 2 as the first one. That's 2003, 2007. We redeemed ourselves with the number 2 pick. That's Calvin Johnson. And then in 2010, we hit it out of the ballpark again with Ndamukong Suh. And then in 2022, lightning doesn't strike twice; it strikes 3 times. Jacob, we get Aiden Hutchinson. This is
Had
a
lot
tough
of luck
one.
with number 2.
We have first 3 picks were bad. The last 3 were amazing.
Man, I was excited about Charles Rogers.
Yeah, I was too. And then he scored touchdown in the first game. You think, oh my God! And then
yeah, Joey Harrington, Charles Rogers, we're gonna break this curse.
Yeah, they were
not.
Oh, all right. So Calvin Johnson, Ndamukong Suh, Aiden Hutchinson. Now, you got to say Calvin's the best out of there. I mean, he's Hall of Famer.
Agreed.
Aiden Hutchinson is definitely recency bias in there, but he has the opportunity of doing this. They win a Super Bowl, that puts him in another category that Calvin could never reach. Super Bowl winning.
Honestly, just another solid season. Another solid team season out of Hutch would be more than Suh had. Because as soon as the success started coming is when Suh jumped ship for the money.
Yep. And Hutch is, just the antithesis of what Suh was about. Just a good guy. I'm not saying Suh wasn't a team guy, but I never felt like it was a team. A team together, fighting all together at that time. So while Ndamukong was an amazing player, I'll take Aiden Hutchinson, you know, all day, every day on that. But that is a good debate to have, and it obviously can't be over until Aiden's career is done. It wouldn't be fair to Aiden, but he certainly has an opportunity to overtake Kelvin with more solid play and getting a Super Bowl title. All right,
A lot of number 3 picks as well.
Yes, a lot of number 3 picks. Most of them, well, the first 2, again, I don't know, from 1956, 1960, not worried about them. So we got 4 picks that I
Don't remember
remember
that
all.
pick from 1960? You didn't listen to that live on the radio?
I did not at all. Wasn't around. My parents wouldn't even remember that pick. Anyways, Benny Blades, 1988, very good safety. I doubt that you remember him, Jacob, but he was a very good safety, hard hitter. Love Benny Blades.
I've
However,
heard the name, but no, I do not know who that is.
the next one is all timer Barry Sanders, number 3. Just
debate over.
Yeah, it's done. You sure Joey Harrington is?
I think the closer debate is who had the better Lions career, Joey Harrington or Jeff Okudah. Right?
Well, I will say that Harrington did get his Thanksgiving revenge on the Lions, whereas Okudah never got that because he was just so
That's
injured
not
all
for
the
the
time.
Lions. What?
Yeah, I know. I'm just saying career in general. So Barry Sanders, hands down, just amazing. We've had number 4 pick, that's Otto Graham, quarterback. Did not sign with a team.
That was during
That's
the war, so
yeah.
he did not sign with the team.
Yeah. All right. We've had couple or 3, 5, or what, 4, 5, 6 number 5 picks. The first 4 are from 64 or older. Number 5 is Bryant Westbrook. If you remember, the defensive back out of Texas, didn't live up to that number 5 pick. And then Ezekiel Ansah was a surprise number 5 pick. Yeah, when he went that year. I remember being shocked that we picked him, wondering about this guy. Then he was good when he was healthy, but
Right.
unfortunately, health did not favor him. So, all right, number 6, nothing to write about except for the most recent number 6 pick is our man Lomas Brown. In 1985, that's the last time that we had the number 6 pick. I would say that pick worked out. That was a good pick.
Right? Love Lomas.
Yes. Number 7 in the 7th round got obviously
couple noteworthy number 7 picks.
Yeah, there's quite a few here. So Mel Farr is 1967, and the only reason I know him is because he used to have car dealerships, and you would have Mel Farr. That's the commercials I used to see when I was a kid. 1987 was Reggie Rogers. I don't remember him. I do remember 1990 Andre Ware, disaster quarterback, run and shoot quarterback from Houston. Talked about that in our opening podcast, Jacob. But the next 2 Lions fans will remember Roy Williams, wide receiver from Texas, and Penei Sewell, all-world tackle for our Lions. Maybe moving to left tackle this year. We will see. So
I know Penei doesn't have to do anything else to be the best number 7 pick in Lions history.
He's
already
there. I remember about Roy Williams, always did the Texas stuff. It was good that he went back to Dallas. I remember being very happy with the trade return that we got for Roy Williams at the time, but we probably screwed up the trade, and he screwed up, everything about that. But yeah, Penei Sewell, hands down, best number 7 pick that we've ever had. All right. Number 8. There's 3 from 1974 and below. We're not going to talk about that. The one I will talk about is from 2019, number 8, TJ Hawkinson, tight end out of Iowa. I was at my buddy Justin's house. I was so mad that we took a tight end at number 8 overall. I was just fuming at that. I was like, I want anyone but him. And it's not that I didn't like TJ Hawkinson. We had so many needs. I just didn't want to take a tight end at number 8.
Right. Not a fan of the tight ends in the first round.
No. I mean, it's okay at the back end. I mean, if Sam Laporta would have went in the first round, I could, I'd be happy in the end. But it was just no, not not happy with TJ Hawkinson. All right, number 9, we got two linebackers that we take there. Chris Claiborne, 1999, and then Ernie Sims, 26.
I was pumped
Both.
about Ernie Sims.
What?
I remember Ernie Sims. I said I was pumped about Ernie Sims.
Yeah.
I remember he had like a cover or like, that was back when I used to subscribe to like ESPN the magazine. And it was a big deal when the magazine would come out with the mock draft in it, right? Because then obviously it's not just readily available on the computer. You get the magazine.
Yeah.
My God, it's here. You come home from school. I'm like flipping through the pages and like seeing the prospect list and stuff. I want to say that Ernie Sims had a picture with him with like a snake or something like that, or maybe like a chain around his neck. He had some sort of thing that just looked really cool. And obviously he was a big linebacker, hard hitter, and everything like that.
Yeah. I don't think he lived up to the number 9 pick. He was solid,
No.
but he wasn't anything amazing. All right. We had lots of 10 picks. So Alex Karras, he's pretty famous from 1958. You don't really know the next 3 guys, but number 9 from 1991, Herman Moore, wide receiver out of Virginia. Huge Herman Moore fan. Loved him in the 90s. You probably didn't get to see him enough to really appreciate him, but he was a solid wide receiver. The next time we got number 10 pick was 2005. Mike Williams, wide receiver out of USC. That was like the 3rd year in a row. I think that was the 3rd year in a row that we took the wide receiver.
Well, it was
right?
Charles Rogers. Then it was Roy Williams, Mike Williams.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember and Mike Williams had been out for a year at that point. Like
Didn't he sit out?
Yeah, he sat out for a year because he wanted to get drafted. And so it's just
somebody the Lions would not take now.
And you would say, hey, that's probably a really bad number 10 pick. But then in 2014, we draft this tight end from North Carolina, Eric Ebron, who would somehow be worse than Mike Williams, at least in my opinion. I cannot stand Eric Ebron.
When you mention the Hawkinson thing, that's what it always goes to, because like I was sitting there, that was one of the drafts, I'm sitting there with my friends. And at this point, like we had already started doing the mock thing with like me and my best friend, that we do these mock drafts and everything like that. And I was like, oh my God, the possibilities, all the people that are right there. Like, you look at the best players on the board. There was Odell Beckham, Aaron Donald. There's just all kinds of linemen, all kinds of superstar players are right there. And a tight end was not on my radar at all. So then, here they go. They draft tight end Eric Ebron. I'm just in shock. They still make fun of me for like just being like in shock, then angry. Like, what are we doing?
Oh God. Yeah. Just his attitude his whole time here, and not very mature. Just, ugly. All right. Number 12, had that 6 times. We're only going to talk about the most recent one, and it was back-to-back years, 22 and 23. Jameson Williams and Jahmyr Gibbs. Both great picks at 12.
Pretty good.
I'm okay with that. I think
and those are both via trade, right? We traded down for Gibbs. We traded up for
JMO, yeah.
So maybe we trade up from 17 for another superstar number 12 this year.
Yeah, it's got to be from Alabama, right? So not really any Alabama guys. Yeah, Proctor. I'd be really pissed if we traded up 12 to get the Proctor. Nothing.
You'd be pissed that night, but you give it 2 or 3 years and see how he did, and then it would make sense, right?
Right, and that's what Brad Holmes' argument is, right? I'm going to get my guy. I'm going to get a football player. You're going to be happy with him. And, you could sit there and argue about value and all that stuff, and I get that. But at the end of the day, are you getting the, right players? For so many years, we were not getting we went through this whole list, right? We're talking about all these guys that busted, right? And people don't want to give Holmes credit for just getting guys like, Aiden Hutchinson said, well, he fell in your lap. Well, you know what? Previous years, they would have jumped for a quarterback, or they would have just tried to be the smartest person in the room instead of just taking the guy. And also we just get lucky that Aiden Hutchinson did fall to us at 2. All right, 13. They've drafted here quite a bit too. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times the most recent time, and the only time we'll talk about is Nick Fairley at 2011. And the only thing I remember about this is we had Sue, and people were wondering why we drafted him. And I remember Michael Irvin just going crazy because we drafted Nick Fairley, like on the draft coverage. He's like, oh my God, they're going to be unstoppable up the middle. Didn't necessarily turn out that way, but You got
I
anything
also
on?
think that was another thing that was like pretty exciting, but it was like his effort was just not there. It was
Yes.
just like everything was just kind of whatever, and it did not translate from college at all. It just felt like, okay, he got a paycheck and now he's just coasting here on out.
That is what the Lions' current one try to get, weed out those players. We don't draft
Right.
those players. High effort guys, salty guys. We need that. All right. Nothing at 15 to noteworthy. 16, obviously, we got to talk about Taylor Decker going there. Never like the all pro, but just a great technician, Pro Bowl-esque player, just solid there. At number 16, you'd be happy. If we get a tackle that's like Taylor Decker at 17 and we just stick him in there, I'm going to be really happy with that. I mean, yes, do I want another all pro on the other side? Yeah, that would be awesome. If I get Taylor Decker, I'm happy. I think that's a good pick.
Agreed.
All right, 17, Reggie Brown, who had the neck injury, the gruesome neck injury. And the other one is Gosser Cherilus, tackle out of Boston College. We got to do better than that this year, Jacob.
Right.
All right, 18. The two of our 18 picks are both recent. Jeff Backus, tackle out of Michigan. He's kind of like
recent.
Yeah.
How long ago?
Recent in the sense of our Lions fandom, as opposed to 1973. And
I know, but you got to cool it when you say recent. How long ago was 2001?
Okay. Well, I meant in my Lions fandom, so it is recent for me. And then Jack Campbell, 2023, which people were really upset about. I remember scratching my head a little bit. I was very open to Jack Campbell, and I'm very glad that he's on our team right now. I saw some arguments on people like, I don't care if he's all pro or not. You don't take a middle linebacker there. So
that's a terrible argument.
We're pissed about drafting all pro people. No,
right.
You draft all pro people. Now I get it. There are certain positions that are bigger in need, but the guy runs our defense. We trust him to run our defense, and he does a good job. He has a very vital job other than just, what he does on the field. As far
you
as
can say that about kicker, but outside of that position, if you're getting an all pro at pick 18, you're wanting an all pro no matter where he's at.
Right. And yeah, and he could be multiple all pros, right? I mean, he's young.
Right.
We're hoping to get multiple all pros out of that guy. All right. Nothing at 19 that we could talk about. 20, Luther Ellis. You probably don't remember him, Jacob. I don't know if you do or not, but very solid defensive tackle.
The first time I started playing Madden, I remember having he was on the team. Yeah. Actually, it was Barry Sanders on offense, and then Luther Ellis. You control him on defense because he was right in the middle.
All right, number 20. All these guys are the 20th pick. I remember all these guys. Actually, I'm sorry, Luther Ellis was picked 20. There's also Terry Fair, Stocker McDougal, Brandon Pettigrew, and then Frank Ragnow, which was
Stocker McDougal had a brother on the Packers, right?
Did he? God, talk about a weird Thanksgiving dynamic.
Hang on, I gotta look it up now.
Brandon Pettigrew, who we all remember, he was interfered with in that playoff game, right? That was when the guy face guarded him. Stafford threw to him. They picked up the flag. I'm sure that was Pettigrew. That's the most famous. He also caught that touchdown pass that Stafford threw with his separated shoulder. I also remember him in for that game too. Pettigrew was solid. I mean, I'm not, but definitely not, an amazing tight end. But maybe, in 2009, tight end position was definitely different than it is now. But Frank, obviously, the all-time pick at number 20 for the Lions.
Right. Stockar's brother did not play for the Packers. He did have a brother in the league, but he played for the Eagles.
Okay. Man,
I remembered it kind of wrong.
Yeah, kind of wrong. All right. We're going to quickly go through the last part here.
We had a brother that played. That was impressive, right? I mean, I'm pulling that from the memory bank. What?
Pull it out. Yeah, that's good.
I was 10 years old.
Half right. You're like the kid on, his math test. Like, I was good up until I screwed up. Can I just get some partial credit? Because I got something right. All right. Number 21 pick, you got Johnny Morton, Jared Davis there. Obviously, Jared Davis was a complete disappointment the whole time. Johnny Morton, solid wide receiver. Not talking about the OC. We're talking about the wide receiver. He's still in favor with Lions fans. All right, nothing at
better wide receiver than he was a fighter. Did you know about Johnny Morton?
I knew that. Yeah, I did know that. Yeah. 23, we got a couple offensive linemen, Jeff Hardings and Riley Reef. I remember people not liking Riley Reef. He was just a battle. Then he goes to the Vikings, and we can really hate him. Some people were happy when he went to the Vikings because they thought we were just going to get a bunch of sacks because people thought that Riley Reef was a turnstile down there. All right, number 24, Terrion's at that spot. The most recent, there's someone from 1968. Jury's still out on Terrion. I still think he could do it regardless of this off the field stuff, but jury's still out on him. But the jury is, we had no one at 25, but at 26, we've only picked there once, and we knocked it out of the park. Robert Porcher in the, what is it? What do they call the Ring of Honor? Whatever they call it up there, the Pride of Detroit. That is, amazing, amazing pick there. He would not fall that far in the draft. Now those ends go, good ends go really, or good edges go earlier. Aaron Gibson, I remember this huge Aaron Gibson going, and yeah, just didn't work out. 28, we've had 2 picks. Tyleek, obviously still on the team. Hopefully he does, he keeps improving. Laken Tomlinson, still in the league, I think. I don't know if he's going to play this year, but he was in there last year. Drafted way back in 2015 and still in the league.
I was just going to say, for being kind of like mediocre, he's hung around for a very long time.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, he's probably one of those good locker room guys and is just solid enough that you get it. And it also tells you how needy this league is for able-bodied offensive linemen. And we've drafted at 30 twice. Lions are not used to picking that late. Those are obviously traded up to get into that spot. We had Kevin Jones, who I liked Kevin Jones, running back. He had a couple solid seasons. And then Javid Best known for his electric run on Monday Night Football, where the stadium shook, and then didn't play very many games after that. Concussions, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But yeah, all right, man. Wrapped up the draft. I got a question for you before we take off here. Your dream scenario for round 1. What is your, like, you're just so happy that this happened?
I honestly don't like picking where we're picking. I don't have a dream like person or dream scenario. The only thing I can hope for is that once that pick comes, the like top 5 people available, at least 2 or 3 of them are people that we've had on our radar and that we've talked about.
Okay.
Like the way that the draft went tonight, where you've got that conversation about Fano or trading down or Proctor still there, or like multiple people that we've talked about, Blake Miller. Like if those guys are all there, I'm okay with it to see who we pick and what we get. The kind of nightmare, not even a nightmare, but just, the thing like it was last year is when the pick comes, we've got 4 or 5 possibilities, and then it's somebody that we had like a round 2 grade or somebody that we're not very high on at all goes 17 overall. Because then right away we're answering the questions from all the Lions fans about what the heck Brad Holmes is doing, and he's rolling the dice again. And despite the JMO pick, the Jahmyr Gibbs, the Jack Campbell, like, all these other times that it's turned out okay, at 17, Tyleek is one thing at the end of the first round in position of need. At 17, you kind of hope that you get a better player than that makes an impact right away. So I don't want the skies falling. I don't want all the questions. I don't want Dan Campbell to have to answer all those questions, Brad Holmes to answer all those questions. That's all you're going to be reading on Pride of Detroit. That's all you're seeing on ESPN. The Lions draft grade for the first round is a D- or an F, or, I just hate all of that. And obviously then you have to wait 2 or 3 years before you find out whether it was a good pick or not.
Yep. Yeah,
so I don't want that, but I can't say I'd be surprised if that's what happens.
Mm-hmm.
What do you got though? What's your dream scenario? Do you have a dream player?
I honestly, if Caleb Downs somehow fell,
I knew you were going to say that.
I just think that he would transform the defense. He's perfect for what we play those 3 safety sets. We don't need to worry about edge as much because like he is like the nickel, like, we could play him linebacker. Like there's just so much that you could do with him. And I think that some people would be pissed about that in the sense that like we already got, Branch and Kirby, we don't know
both of whom are not going to be right, not going to be ready, but, or like, we don't know.
they're not going to understand that. Like, even if those guys come back and they're healthy, our defense is going to, you're not going to know where it's coming from. And I like that. I like that a lot. And I think that Shep would love that a lot. So that is probably my dream scenario, that somehow he falls or gets within reach of us and Brad jumps up. I don't think he falls.
That was
17.
my question. I was going to say,
I don't think he falls to 17. I'm willing to move a little bit to give up to him. Am I willing to give up? Dude, I don't know.
Because the thing is, I don't think there's any chance he gets out of the top 10.
Yeah,
but let's
I don't
say
think
he
so
does,
either.
and he's there at 11. You already know the Cowboys would be like just itching to get him, and the Cowboys pick 12. So you'd have to trade up with the Dolphins at 11, I would think. And
you're probably giving up next year's first rounder.
Exactly.
You're probably giving up next year's first rounder for that.
You have to.
You might be getting something back, like a fourth or a fifth. You know, you might be getting a little bit.
But would you be
back.
okay with that to get Caleb Downs and you trade next year's first?
God, I don't know. Also, you're giving up the opportunity to get one of the top tackles, which I think is a big need. So, like, you got to think of it that way too. However, at the end of the day, we just talked about it. Like, if we go up and get this guy and he's all pro in 2 years, are we really going to be super upset about that? I don't know if I will. So, I mean, I could be talked into that. That my dream scenario is Caleb Downs somehow falls like 12 or 13. He gets in with the reach, and we can move up and, you know, trade next year's third round or next year's second round and move up. I would certainly do that. However, I would say a more realistic thing that happened is almost what happened tonight. We have so many options at 17 where Fano falls. We still got Freeling. I'm not a huge trade back guy where like always want to trade back, but in this scenario where I'm happy with multiple guys and Blake Miller could be my fallback, I run in this draft specifically, and I think for the Lions, I want to pick up extra picks in that top 100. I really do, because I think we could get another starter out of that. And then, you know, couple with the 2 fourth rounders, if we get a third rounder, we trade a fourth rounder, we can get up towards the beginning of the third round. I would be okay with that. I
don't see any way that you trade up more than 2 spots without having to give up that first round pick next year.
You don't think so?
I don't.
Yeah.
Especially with the other, like you said, a lot of people calling, a lot of potential trades happening, a lot of smoke going around. You know, I just don't think that Brad Holmes is going to fall for that either, but it's very likely that the Dolphins or somebody, you know, if they're calling like, hey, and obviously that would be 6 spots up. But I mean, if you're even moving, you know, 2 or 3 spots up, we're picking 17. So it's not like they would have to drop very far in this year's draft. That's what you're hoping for, is that you can leverage that, you know, a team is only falling back 4 spots. Therefore, you don't need my first round pick next year.
Right.
I don't see it happening, though.
Yeah, I don't see it happening either. But that's my dream scenario. Somehow, I really like Caleb Downs, and I think that he'd be great for our defense. However, I think a more realistic one is that we have multiple tackle options, and we trade back and still get a tackle, and we pick up another top 100 pick, if not more, depending on how far back we fall. And, you know, we even have some edge picks in there. So I think that I'd be happy with that. I think we pick at 17. I think that that's what's going to happen. However, I'd be okay with trading back and getting an extra pick in this draft, because you get some extra defensive help or whatever. But
hey, could be around this time Thursday night. Maybe it'll be getting close to the pick. 2 more days.
My nightmare one is that we trade up and get a tackle that we could have got at 17. That's my nightmare, is that we trade up and draft Blake Miller.
Yeah, right. Yes.
Like, we fall in love with him that much, and Brad Holmes is like, I got to go get this guy, even though he probably would have been at 17. But that being said, if he turns into, you know, Taylor Decker, okay, so be it. But that's my nightmare scenario, is we trade up and get someone that I think we could have just got at 17.
I don't think trading up and him performing like Taylor Decker did is enough.
Okay.
I think if you trade up, you need Taylor Decker career to be the bar. That needs to be the floor. You've got to be higher than that to warrant trading up and losing a first round pick next year.
Yeah. Well, I don't think you trade a first round, but like, say you couple 50 and you know, in one, and you move up like 2 picks. Just, you know, you move up to 15 to get.
That'd be terrible for me. Like, in my opinion, that's terrible.
Yes. No, that's exactly the opposite
Right,
of what
right. But
what
like
my
to have a
dream.
career, no. But like, let's say you trade up and then he has a career like Taylor Decker. That's still terrible for me to look back
Yeah.
on.
Hmm. Yeah. I know Jeremy's worst fear is that people jump us and take the tackle right in front of us. But if the board falls the way it does, we have so many choices at that pick that let those tackle people jump up. We back up. We still get our tackle later on, and we get other draft picks. That's what I'm okay with. And I
Right.
think that we talk about Brad Holmes wants to use the word constraints. You want to talk about constraints? Well, you know what? You know what helps? Getting starters in the third round. Getting starters, in the even in the fourth round, that would really help getting cheap starters for a few years that helps offset these 1-year contracts that we do. So we'll see how it plays out this weekend. I'm going to be super excited. Jacob, what are we thinking of coming on? What Friday morning? Or what's our what can we tell our listeners that we're thinking about doing here?
I would like to try to come on Friday morning as like a first reaction. It would probably be a quicker pod. I'm not sure
Yeah. Yeah, I'm
if we
thinking like
jump on
15.
live or if we just record like whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, like a 15-minute thing. Just
Yeah, our
hopefully
initial thoughts.
excitement,
Yeah.
disappointment, whatever it may be. Also, like leading into who fell out of the first round that we might be targeting in the second round.
Yeah, exactly. Quick talk, 15 minutes just to get on there. We'll jump on early. Maybe people can get on before work and just chat. The other option is if something crazy happens, Jacob and I could jump on draft night, but I think both of us really want to watch the draft. And so it's hard for us to tear away from that. But if something crazy happens, you and I might have to just jump on here and talk about it.
Agreed.
Good or bad. Good or bad, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Could see me screaming for the first time as a Lions fan. I haven't had that moment on the stream yet, but Jacob, this is a great week for us. Draft is super exciting time, and then there might be a little lull, but then we get schedule a release, right? So probably next week we'll talk about this first round pick, but next week we'll talk about draft. We'll talk about our draft pick, our whole draft haul, what that means. We'll talk a little bit about the roster, I'm sure, and plus these interviews with these players. See who jumps out and is Hassanin this year that we just
Right,
instantly
right.
fall in love with this 6th-round pick. So we'll see. Got anything else before we take off here, Jacob?
Good, man. I'm ready. I'm ready for Thursday.
All right. Want to give a shout out to Dan Pask, Elventi, Scotty's on here. Who else? Detroit fan was on here. I just want to get him right. Get up. Detroit fan 9899. Appreciate you guys with your questions. I hope we got to most of them. I hope you guys had a good time. And if you guys are listening, when we're not live, thank you guys. And we'll hopefully talk to you later on this week. So one last thing. Go Lions.